welcome back to Off the Clock. And again, welcome back, Off the Clockers. Today we have a very special guest again. Akhona, the current CEO of BIAM, KFC Africa, a mother of four. I've been teasing you about that to add more kids to that, big family already. So, Akhona, thank you very much for making this time to be with us today and share your off the clock life with us. So, why don't you start by introducing yourself the way you like?
Thank you, Peter. Nice of you to have me. You've just about taken half of my introduction away already. So I'm probably, mother of four. I get the wonderful opportunity of running the KFC Africa business.
Okay.
And I come from the Eastern Cape. So I come from what people call the rural Eastern Cape. I come from Mthatha, in a place called North Crest. My dad, interestingly, was born in the same village as Mandela.
Oh, wow.
So there you go, in Qengqe, but I didn't grow up there. My dad did, but we spent many weekends in my dad's homestead. I was schooled in Mthatha for most of my primary school, and then just after 1994, I moved to Queenstown. I was in boarding school. And I was in Queenstown Girls High, which is a fantastic opportunity, actually. Being in an all-girls school really teaches you something about leadership. And I think I learned most of my leadership lessons there. I moved to UCT, and after that, I did a BCom economics degree. After that, I made the great trek to Johannesburg, like most people. Yeah.
Yeah, I also did a economics
degree.
Did you
also?
Yeah.
How many kids in your family?
There are four of us.
Okay.
So it's no surprise that I also have four children.
And where are you in that order?
I'm a typical middle child. So I'm child number 3. The one that my mother probably had to worry the least about because I would just get on with it. I think I was the perfect child. My mom won't admit it, but I think I was probably her favorite child because I never got into trouble, never got in her way. I just kind of carried on.
Sound like direct marketing. I'm good.
No, actually, no. I think I got up to
skills.
some silly things, but I just had the ability of keeping them away from my mother's eyes, and
Wow. Tsepi.
Yeah, so how did you find your way to KFC?
Interestingly, I'd been a petroleum girl through and through. So when I finished my UCT degree,
Petroleum?
I was in petroleum. I was at Shell. I was at Engine. I went back to Shell. I started off at Shell actually as a graduate in their strategy department as an analyst, and I thought that was going to be pretty fun. And a couple of years in, I'd done a couple of things in Shell, and I appreciate that about that organization, that they gave me so many opportunities. So I started out in strategy, moved on to operations at the time. I moved into property, moved into marketing. So they really just allowed me to flex myself in different departments. And then I got headhunted by Engine. I went and looked after their convenience business for 2 years. And then Shell called me back and they're like, hey, we think we might need somebody with, your type of skill set. And because I've grown up at Shell, it's easy, when you've worked for an organization to go back because you know exactly what you're walking into. So I went back, I stayed there another 2 years, and then the call from KFC came, and my first response was, why would I say yes to a KFC opportunity? Like, honestly, what do people at KFC do? Because I promise you, up until then, my only interaction with KFC was obviously through a KFC restaurant, and I thought, first, it's, people are not going to understand what I do, and it just doesn't seem like the type of thing that I would want to do. So many conversations later, I actually got sold onto the culture more than the job. I still remember having a conversation with a headhunter when I signed the offer.
Do you like chicken?
I love chicken. Like, chicken is literally all I eat. But I didn't even think about it in those terms. I was like, KFC, who works at KFC? like my life is going places, guys. Like, seriously. And I spoke to the headhunter. And she said to me, listen, if you hate it, we'll find you another job. That's what we do. We find jobs for people. And so I signed, and I had the most hilarious offer letter from KFC, sorry. And they said, we're pleased to offer you the role of either franchise director or development director or something like business development director or something like that. And when I had a conversation with them to go, okay, what do you guys want to hire me for? They're like, well, we're not sure. Initially we're recruiting for a business development director, which was a role to open up new markets in Africa, like an independent role, so to speak, with no team reporting into it, etc. This person would be like a pathfinder for us. And then as we started engaging with you, we saw, you've got really great people skills. We think you'd benefit from having a team that you lead. And because you're coming in fresh into the brand, we don't want to throw you out, into the system without any prior knowledge of the business. So it might be helpful for you to have people in your team who've been in the organization. And therefore, the franchise development director role could be something that's more appropriate for you. But don't worry, once you've signed the offer, we'll just maybe discuss it when you join. So we did discuss it when I joined, and I was like, maybe the franchise development director role is more up my alley. So I took on that role, which was, I'd never done an Africa role before. And this role, I mean, people say they love Africa. They're like, I'm passionate about Africa and I love the energy. But I think South Africa is not
That's me.
Africa. If you love South Africa, good for you. But get out into Africa to truly appreciate this continent for what it really is. Some of my favorite moments were traveling into Ghana and just getting into like Accra and the business of the streets, the people selling food, and just the vibe, the heat, the energy, and everyone is going somewhere and everyone has some purpose, something they're chasing, and it's just amazing. But also the humility of the people.
Yeah.
Everyone calls you madam in Ghana, and it's just how respectful they are.
Madame.
It's like madam. They're so respectful, but they're just genuine people. I think honestly, the term Ubuntu applies a whole lot more outside of South Africa than it does here. So that's a very long-winded way of getting to how I ended up at KFC.
No, but I love it because I think when I traveled to Nairobi, I got into an Uber, and the Uber driver said to me, hi, how are you? Where are you from? And I said, I'm from South Africa. And he said, well, welcome home. And I just thought that was like so fuzzy and so nice and so sweet. So I truly agree with the whole, idea of, like, if you want to get to know the true spirit of Africa, you have to get outside of South Africa. But you mentioned the shift, right, from petroleum to, I guess, FMCG, food, KFC. Was there any sort of imposter syndrome that came from shifting out of an industry that you are not familiar with?
Yeah, I mean, there was then. I've since deleted the word imposter syndrome from my vocabulary because I just feel it's something we've taken and just owned, especially as women, and we shouldn't, but that's another story for another day. When I joined KFC, one of the things I struggled with was the number of categories and SKUs we deal with. I came from petroleum, which was pretty simple. I had 5 fuel grades to worry about. My life was literally that simple. You import the crude oil, you refine it, you put it on a truck or whatever it is, you get it into one of our depots, you get it into a service station, and you don't have to market it much, right? Because everyone needs fuel. You have a car, you need fuel.
Yeah.
And that's just how, and it's not a simple business model, but it was definitely a lot simpler than like your typical FMCG. So moving into KFC and having to figure out, like, counting pieces of chicken, like, oh my gosh, it's a 21-piece packet, but every chicken has a cost price to it, and understanding profitability in that environment. And then changing calendars, like marketing calendars, every like 6 weeks, there's a new marketing calendar, there's different promotions and all of this very intense marketing activity and like a very intense P&L. Obviously, the scope was much bigger as well in terms of the number of people that we look after. I think in my particular role in development, so I came from Shell, where we were lucky to build 2 service stations a year. Like, honestly, it took us years to even just build the one because of your approval processes, your real estate, accessing the right real estate, your the Department of Minerals and Energy and their licensing processes, etc., getting the right franchisee, getting them the right funding, all of those complexities just really prolong the process. Enter KFC. We were building at that time probably 60 KFCs a year. We're close to 100 now. And we're building 100 a year? Yeah, this year we'll probably build 100. Like that's how exactly.
Oh,
that's the
wow.
level of
Damn.
intent. Yes.
Damn, where
I
do you
thought
get
it
all
was
the chickens to
separated.
put it into like,
But that's how intense it is. To turn around one KFC probably takes us, like a decent one, probably takes us about 3 months just from construction to
is it a modular
opening.
build?
It's not a modular build. This is just the point. Like it's not a modular build, but we've got plans. We've got a standard layout.
Yeah,
a
I'm
lot of
just
it is
saying
standard.
design, yeah.
Wise, yes, of course we have to tweak it for the location, etc. But there's it runs like a well-oiled machine. But there's also a lot of complexity that goes into it. So submitting plans to council, getting those approved on time. And sometimes it does take us 2 years to turn around a project, just depending on where it is, etc., and what the circumstances are. But barring all of that, we're still building almost 100 KFCs a year, whereas at Shell we're building 1 or 2 a year. So that level of complexity was definitely very different for
I'm
me.
sure you're doing better at engine.
Engine was the same. Petroleum is very slow. I think now it's different with the acquisitions and the rebrands. But to build what we called an NTI, which is new to industry, which is what KFC does, we build new stores. It takes you a whole lot of time, just compared to what we're able to achieve as KFC. So that was probably for me one of the biggest changes, just the intensity, the rigor, the rhythms, the fast-paced kind of approach to everything that we do. Everything needed to have happened yesterday. If something is supposed to happen today and you don't do it today, tomorrow's too late. Like it literally is. So that level of speed, but it's probably what I've become addicted to now also.
What, the chicken or the work style?
The work style.
Okay.
And the chicken. I tried actually. Funny story. 3 weeks ago, I had a trip that I was taking. I was like, for this trip, maybe I need to feel less full. So let me stop eating meat. And I promise you, in all our meetings, there was always KFC. And I'm like, why is this happening to me? Because there's always KFC in our building. Why? So no, I'm back to my chicken now.
Wow, that's insane, right?
Yeah, the fastness though.
Yeah, it's a FMCG, moving consumer
But I
goods.
think we undermine those words. Well, I do. I didn't realize how quickly everything has to go. Even when we were doing the interview with Greg, I was thinking to myself, if there was ever a business that someone said, go and own that business, it would have been a KFC or a McDonald's, because I know that people always want those things. But
it's cutthroat.
It's cutthroat, yeah.
I think you remember the CD, Drake CD.
You're
cover.
referencing
With the
Drake?
chicken, was that
Drake.
the...
No, Drake the singer.
That is really cool.
That
though.
is really
Drake the singer.
I need to find a Taylor Swift reference just now.
Taylor Swift. But on the cover it's saying, if you're seeing this now, it's already late.
Yes.
So I think
If you're reading this,
if you're only reading this
it's
now,
too late.
it's too late. So I think the business is like that. Walala wasala.
Yeah.
So if you're not, on the moment in this kind of cutthroat environment, you miss out.
Yeah.
And so I know that we're talking more about the chicken and the business because you're so passionate about it and you confessed that you love chicken. What happens, what's your crisis plan if you don't get the 2 tons of chicken? What do you do? Where do you get more chicken if you don't get it through your abattoirs? What happens?
I call my chief supply chain officer. You must make a plan. But and I mean, it's kudos to that team, right? Because I think we honestly have a world-class supply chain team. We really do. We have 1,400, actually over 1,400 KFCs across our 23 markets. And we have a team that's fully dedicated to ensuring we have chicken in every single restaurant, every single day. Outside of South Africa, because a lot of our franchisees would control the supply chain, but our supply chain team still oversees all of that. They will tell you in Ivory Coast, if the chicken doesn't land on this day, we will run out at this point in time. And already they're making plans for the chicken to not run out. Because remember, for us, chicken is literally the main thing that we sell. No chicken, no business. So we've dedicated teams
No
of
chicken,
people,
no business.
like literally, so we've dedicated teams of people that are obsessing over how do we ensure that we're not just thinking about chicken for next month or 2 months from now, but chicken in the next 5 years. So who are the suppliers we should be engaging actively? Who should be investing in growing their capacity given our growth? If we're building 100 stores at a gross level every year, who are the suppliers that have the right capacity to meet our future demand? So we do a lot of future demand planning and also optimizing, obviously, because I think in a high cost environment and high inflationary environment, it's easy to start taking the cost, and by the time you know it, the business model is flat on its face. So they're working through that to ensure that in 5 years' time, we're not paying more for the same amount of chicken. Again, well-sophisticated group of people that are thinking about this on a daily basis.
Wow. That's just massive. 1,500, 400 stores or restaurants.
Yeah,
Um,
and growing.
How many tons of chickens you sell?
A lot. I can't tell you the exact numbers because some competitors could be listening.
Oh, yes. It is a competitive
All right.
space.
As long as I get my chicken, I'll leave it at that. Happy.
So, I mean, you're working in quite a very hectic environment, and you're also a mother. How do you juggle the two?
I don't juggle. I think my family understand. Mom has a job, but mom is also mom. And so I don't try and separate the two. I'm 100% mom. I'm 100% career woman. I'm 100% wife. And all of these things can all happen at the same time, or all of these things can give space to the one thing that needs priority at any given point in time. So I think for me, probably the biggest blessing in my setup is my husband, in that he's like fully committed to being my cheerleader. Like he's all for Team Akhona, and whatever needs to get done so things can get done. He's my guy, and I do exactly the same for him. We have a
He's your guy?
He really is my guy. He really is. No better cheerleader, honestly. And I do pray and hope that I do exactly the same for him. But we give each other space to be who we need to be when we need to be. So if I can't be mom, like he shows up for me in places where I need to be showing up. If he can't be dad, I show up for him. And it's never okay, well, I've done so much already. Like I need some space or I need a breather. But we all understand we've got different careers, we've got different career ambitions, but at the same time, we've got one family and one vision and one direction. And as long as each of us are willing to help each other carry the weight, then it works, and it does. And sometimes I'll involve my children in my work because I never wanted my children to resent the work that I do and think that it takes mommy away from them.
So how do you do that?
I'll
Give
bring them into the
chicken?
office. No, I'll bring them, like last week, was it Friday, one of the days, I brought my little one, my 5-year-old, into the office, and she now knows her way around. She knows the people in the office. We go past the kitchen. She's like, okay, can I knock and ask for an ice cream or ask for whatever they're cooking? So for them, actually, work is an enjoyable space, and they don't mind mommy being at work, even when I do have to work, a lot more than what I usually do. They know what I'm doing, and they know that work is actually a happy space for me. They know I'm happy at work, and that's important, especially having girl children, is I need them to know being a working girl or a working mom is actually great, and you can have a job that you really love.
Yeah.
And it's not either the family or the job. You can actually have all of it, and you can be happy in all the places all of the time.
Sure, I love that. And I love that you said that, because I think a lot of the times you feel like, okay, this is the time for procreation or making children, and we have to sacrifice our careers for that time. But the fact that, you're in an environment that allows you to bring 100% of yourself there, and also your family is so supportive of you being a career woman, that's really great. But now when you're outside of work, how do you spend time with the girls and your son? What does that look like for Akhona?
Besides the many birthday parties and the play dates, I promise you my children have a busier social calendar than I do.
Yeah, they do.
It really is. So it's that. It's my husband and I going out. It's us going out as a family. Bike parks,
Yeah.
Papachinos, free advertising Papachinos.
No, but
Spend
it's a
lot
great
of time
place.
there.
It's a great place. I'm actually going to do my daughter's second birthday there.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Papachinos is-
It's
yeah.
like we spend all our time and money in Papachinos. Yeah, it's being out of the house as much as we can. Yeah, and spending time with friends. We very involved in our church, so we spend a lot of time at church as well, just doing meaningful work. Yeah, and I'm an interior decorator at heart. I think if I wasn't doing what I'm doing now, that's what I'd be doing. So
Okay.
yeah, so I do a lot of that. I probably shouldn't. So my house changes all the time. I'm always out
Nice.
buying stuff. Yeah,
So
or like Decorex or whatever it is.
Or a shopper.
I mean, I don't want to call it shopping. I'm a creative.
All right, okay. Get the general understanding.
And then so growing up, I used to love sewing. I used to see my grandmother with a sewing machine, and I really fell in love, and I taught myself how to sew. So in varsity,
Wow.
my mom bought me a sewing machine, and I used to make stuff and actually sell them. Cushions and duvets, imagine.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah, now I own, I think, about 3 sewing machines. So when I feel like I really need to just get into my zone, that's what I normally do.
That's very girly. I mean, that's,
It is quite
that's
girly.
cool.
But it's quite a nice like hideaway for me, especially like my life is
Yeah.
very busy and there's a lot of noise.
Escaping to
It's
that
like a nice
machine.
escape
Yeah.
for me. Yeah.
So let's get back serious. How did you meet your guy?
So it's a yeah, it's a long story, but I think it's actually quite romantic. I met my husband during a very life-changing moment for me. So I was married, and we had our first born child, my now 13-year-old. He had a choking incident. So he was having porridge in the morning, and then he chokes on his porridge. And his nanny, she comes to me, she's like, he's not breathing. Like, I think he's not breathing. He's just choked. And she's holding him in his hands. And I remember at that time, I was like, this is not how my child is going to die. Like, I just refuse. So we got him into the car. We drove to the nearest doctor's rooms, and they started resuscitating him. And like, I still remember, like, just lifting up my hands in prayer, like, God, you gave him life. And like, right now, I'm trusting you to just bring back that life. Like, you give life, and I'm trusting you to give him his life back.
Wow.
And his dad walked in, and he was a medical doctor, and he opened his eyes and looked at, I don't even know, like, dilated pupils or undilated, what they mean. But he was like,
Yeah.
this child is gone. And I said, no, but I'm not going to let him go. Like, he's here. And then he got a heartbeat eventually, and they rushed him to Unitas. Long story short, we were in Unitas for 2 months.
Pretoria, yeah.
Yeah, in Pretoria. And he was ventilated for a month, on and off. So they would extubate, and then he wouldn't cope, and they'd intubate again. And eventually, when he did, start breathing on his own, they were like, listen, we've done everything we can for your child. The reality is he's suffered so much damage to his brain. His brainstem is still intact, but there's been so much damage that we don't know how much he'll recover. But from an acute perspective, like, we've really done all we can.
Yeah.
So what would you like to do? And I said, give me my child. That's what I'd like you to do. Just like, give me my child. At that time, his dad and I were disagreeing as to what should happen, because it was, still remember having the conversation with the doctor that this is now an ethical thing, because we have ethical decisions to make.
Yeah,
One is you
yeah.
switch off the ventilator, or,
I've seen that.
you keep
It's
him
quite a
on. And it was,
Tough moment.
yeah, I mean, and thank God for my family, honestly, because if there's ever a time that family shows up for you, it was that time, and a bunch of friends were just surrounding me with all of this positivity and prayer. And I said to the doctor, well, we're going to keep him on the ventilator until he starts breathing. Like, we're not switching it off. And I had to write him a letter to say, even if there was a cold brew, they would resuscitate and they would intubate until the child starts breathing, which, felt a little bit harsh at the time. But I was like, this is just not how it's supposed to go down. So eventually he did start breathing on his own, and they extubated him. So they gave me my son. His dad and I at that point had decided it was probably not going to work if we remained together, because we had such differing views on what should happen. with him, so we separated. And when my son came out of Unitas, we then moved into rehab, Netcare rehab.
Yeah.
And I walked
Another
in.
free advertisement.
Another free advertisement. And we walked into the ward that they were going to be keeping my son in. And this guy comes to me and he's like, oh,
Your
welcome
guy.
to, well, he worked
Your
at
guy.
Netcare, and he was like, hi, welcome to the ward. We're going to be looking after you and your son, and we will help you guys reintegrate back into whatever your normal lives are going to be. I'm part of the team that's going to be working with you. And he's the guy that's now my husband. We've been married for 10 years. So the rest is history. The rest is
Wow.
history. So it's a bit of a story. But, I often think, do I ever regret, what happened prior to that? I certainly don't, because I feel in a very twisted way, the whole incident led to my current. And had it not been for that, I would have never met my husband,
Your
Ishe,
guy.
and I would have never had the beautiful family that I have now. And my life definitely would not be what it is today. I don't think I would approach life the way that I do now. I think a lot of who I became happened in that time. Actually, I think if I look at myself pre the incident and post, there is a distinct difference. It's almost like I went through a whole metamorphosis and I became a new person. And how often doesn't it happen that in life you get two opportunities or two chances to be two really different people, but to experience two really different lives? And I'm ever so grateful. I'm not grateful that incident happened, but I'm grateful how it actually turned out and worked out for my good.
Wow. Do you believe in fate?
I believe in predestination.
Okay.
I believe that everything that happens has been predestined, that our lives are ordered in a certain way, and the things that happen were going to happen, but they were going to happen for a reason. Now you can mull over why me. I remember one of the doctors at Unitas asking me, because she was like, you're such a faithful and a prayerful person. Do you ever ask God why this has happened to you? And I said, why would I ask him? Like, in the bigger scheme of God and all his wisdom, like, seriously, I would spend my time asking him why. I have a son who's alive right now. I could have been bearing a child and I'm not. There are so many other things that could have gone wrong and they didn't. And I feel, given what was predestined to happen, I actually got a pretty good deal out of it. So is it hard? Yes, my son still has many, many challenges. But I think the richness that is brought to our lives, I think the richness is brought to his sister's lives, is just amazing. Like, I look at how happy my people are. Like, my home is a happy place. My children are happy. My husband's, like, we all just, it's a happy life to have. And I wouldn't change anything about it, because I think had it not been for all of the things that have happened, it could have been different, and it's not. And I hear people's stories, and I hear how their lives are, and I hear the regrets, and I'm like, actually,
I feel you. I see the emotion when you talk about it. I almost want to regret why I asked you the question.
I'm actually glad you asked the question, because I think if you don't get that part about me, you don't know me. If you don't get that, because for me to be here and to be the person that I am, and even at work, like, the decisions I make, they are based off that background. They are based off those experiences. When there's a big crisis and it's really major and everyone's panicking and I'm the only person in the room who's not panicking, I'm like, geez, man, I've dealt with life and death matters.
Yeah.
Like, seriously. And it gives me such a perspective. I'm the person that can step back and go, okay, well, here's the problem. What do we do? What do we need? Do we need to work? Can we control it? What can we control? What can't we control? Let's just get on. And I believe it's become my superpower.
So one question, and then I'll hand over back to you, Tip. Have you always been this calm, or before this incident you were a bit, yourself, or this calmed you down? Like,
I think I was predisposed to calmness, but I didn't have the maturity to embrace it. So
Okay.
I would always go with the emotion of the moment, and I just let little things kind of, sidetrack me. I think when this happened, it brought me back to the core of who I am. and brought a lot of maturity, brought a lot of perspective, brought a lot of reflection. And so I've embraced who I am. And maybe sometimes I don't need to be as calm as I often am, but I also get why. I get that this is me and this is how I show up, and this is how I can leverage this and actually make it into a strength.
So I mean, I see that. I observe that in people because I'm generally very calm. I'm super cool, and sometimes their mom gets very upset that I don't panic.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's a big thunder, the house is about to fall down. You
And he's
cool. And and
Let's-
she's the opposite. It's like it's the end of the world. It's like it's not the end of the world. Chill. I'm figuring it out. So I see that a lot in people, and I mean I don't know, whether there's a sweet spot to be cool and calm, or I don't know, but I'm happy with who I am, and I see that in you as well.
I think also for me, as a leader, I've now learned there are situations where you need to exhibit a level of panic. So it's not panic because it comes from here. It's panic because it comes from here, because I need to show the people how serious the situation is.
Yeah.
And that if I'm panicking, then it means we need to act with speed.
Yes.
But it's certainly not something that moves me from my place of calmness. It's just because I need to signal to other people who don't understand
That it's
or who may
serious, yeah.
misread my calmness for nothing is wrong, everything is okay. And so I do need to go, okay, I'm going to panic right now because I need to signal something. But it's certainly not coming from, like, deep down, I'm still, like, I'm calm, I'm okay, I'm like, it will all work out.
And
Yeah.
your guy, is he as
He's your
calm
mom.
as you?
He's your mom.
Okay.
It's raining and it's like, oh my God. I'm like, hi, babe. What do you mean? Hi, babe. Yeah, he's that guy. But we complement each other nicely, because I do feel like in my life I need people like that as well, because they can help me see things that I can't see. I think in my calmness, I tend to also be overly positive, overly optimistic about everything will work out. And yes, it served me in that it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, but I almost do need somebody to go, ooh, we are in trouble, or
Yeah.
we should be panicking, like,
Your
and then I
glass-
can,
Your glass is always full.
you know what I mean? Like,
Half full, not half empty.
I need someone to be like, it's about to spill over. And then I can kind of take their level of panic with my level of calmness and find middle ground.
Okay.
Yeah, just moving on. I think the question around how people perceive you at work, as the CEO, as the leader of the business. I mean, is it congruent to reality, or is off sync? Do they, think you living this perfect life? Every night you go home and have a good dinner, Norwegian salmon with some vegetables surrounded, and caviar. And when you finish, you go sit in a jacuzzi and drink a rosé wine, and then you go to sleep. How do they perceive you
A
and
very
see you?
specific.
Very specific, very worryingly specific. I think generally people have a perception of leaders and what their lives are like, which is obviously could not be more different from the truth. So I don't go home and have Norwegian salmon. No, half the time I go home and look through the snack cupboards and I'm like, what are we having? And try and figure out what's for dinner, because our kids eat before us. They their lives are more sorted than my husband's and I's lives are. And probably 3 out of 7 days we order something in, maybe eat out once a week. But it's really nothing fancy. When I get home, it's always for me just getting back into my sanctuary, and just getting back into a place of peace. Nothing fancy about that at all. I take off my work clothes. I leave my heels at the door, literally, because obviously the feet hurt from the high heels. And I get into my free Emirates pajamas. Like, it's If it's not my free Emirates pajamas, it's my free KFC pajamas. So I couldn't even spend money
You
on
have
fancy
KFC
pajamas.
pajamas?
I do. I have a onesie for winter. I have like a red pair for summer. Yeah. So I have a very simple life outside of work. The things that make me happy are not complicated things at all. The fanciest my husband will do is, whatever we're having for dinner, whether it's a packet of chips or it's streetwise too, as yes, we love streetwise too, or it's, a meal that we just, put together in 20 minutes. We sit and we have a proper dinner. I always put on candles. It's just a thing for me. They scented. I love the
Candlelight
scent,
dinner?
but also I just love the ambience of a candle. There's just something calming about it. Yeah. We put cell phones away. We sit. We talk. And we just reflect on the day that's gone by. And that's my day. Nothing fancy about it at all, actually.
With all that in mind, how's your sleep? I mean, do you sleep well? How many hours do you do? I mean, I know you mentioned that you've got 4 kids. I mean, I'm sure it's quite difficult to, time it. But on average, how many hours do you do?
Yeah, I mean, I think 7 hours on a good night. I generally am in bed by 10 p.m.
Okay.
I like to keep to a certain rhythm. I'm in bed by 10, latest is maybe midnight if I need to do some work. I like working at night. I just generally work better at night. And I'm up like 5 a.m., 5:30. My alarm clock goes off at 5. Our daughter's in our bedroom at 5:15 and she's waking us up. She's
Wakey.
she's a very diligent alarm. Yeah, but I get a decent night's sleep. If I'm worried about something, I generally make it a point before I go to bed that I understand what it is that's worrying me, and I decide if it's worth taking into my sleep and into the next day. And actually, you'll find that a lot of the things that keep you awake and that worry you probably don't deserve that much airtime in your mind anyway to begin with, or that much real estate. So I have a filtering system. That's just how I work. I have a filtering system in my mind constantly going, this is a big issue. Can I control it? Should I be worried? Or should I discard it, or should I keep it? And so it helps me when I go to bed that I'm not keeping anything that I shouldn't be keeping. If I feel like I should, then I write stuff down. I'm a big journaler. I write stuff down. If I don't have an answer to something, I put it down as a question, and I wake up in the morning. And in most cases, I get an answer. I think if you're very deliberate with how you want to interact with the world, some people call it universe, I call it God. If I'm very deliberate in terms of what I'm looking for, I tend to find I get the same back. If I have specific questions, I ask them, and I get a response from him. Yeah.
So that level of sleep, 7 hours a night, I know you travel a lot, you're on the road a lot. Do you maintain it, across continents, up north, or you
No.
suffer when you travel?
No. I was recently in Hawaii. I didn't sleep. I think.
Hawaii?
Yeah.
Hawaii?
Like Hawaii.
Okay.
Yes. It was amazing, but not when the sun set, because I'd be like, oh my gosh, here's another night of sleeplessness. So I think I was
Jet lag.
extreme. I think I was awake for 3 nights.
That's like almost 12 hours of time.
It's exactly 12 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And coming back wasn't any better. And normally I'm a good traveler. Like, my body adjusts quite easily to time zones, but for some reason this time around, not so much. I think the first night coming back was okay, and then the rest of the week wasn't. But because I knew what it was, and I almost expected for a bit of jet lag, I wasn't anxious about it. I was just like, okay, well, the sleep will come back when it comes back. I must just do what I need to do, stay active during the day, just keep my mind alert. But yeah.
So this was obviously KFC business meeting.
Yeah.
It must have been very productive.
Extremely.
In an island.
Extremely.
Parties, getting to know each other.
You'd be amazed what a pina colada could do for productivity levels.
Yeah.
Yeah, extremely.
It's happy.
So you mentioned you do a filtering system, right? When you have something that is on your mind. I'm guessing this is how you manage your mental health then. And when you write things down, do you leave it on the page, and do you separate from it at that point.
Yeah, I do. The minute I've written it down, I create distance. That for me is literally leaving it until I need to revisit because I've gotten a different perspective, I've gotten the answer that I wanted, or maybe I want to ask the question differently. But I generally I release. I actually release a lot of stuff. Like, you'd be amazed the stuff that I release. I do not, I carry no weight. I travel light. Generally, I travel through this life very light. I carry no baggage at all. Even the things that you feel like, oh, that was a funny remark. Like, I don't think you should have said that. I'm just like, that's on you. And I keep it moving. Like, I carry no baggage at all. And again, I think it's because of my experiences, especially with my son, is that was a lot of baggage. And I had to learn to uncarry that.
Yeah.
And now I refuse to take on anything that's unnecessary. So I write stuff down and I leave it.
So
Sure.
allow me to follow up because very philosophical as well. You at some time you were chief of people. Okay, tell us a little bit more about that. Because being chief of people and running a business, you require different level of energy. Chief of people, you listen to people, empathy. You bring King Solomon's wisdom in those discussions to see, whose baby is this when people are having argument about, this one against this, and just take us through how you've gone through that transition because I think when you guys spoke to me, I was saying because my go-to is I watch movies from a director's eye in terms of creating and looking at different scenes, and that helps me to almost when I go into a meeting, I kind of work on how do I show up. What is the temperature of this meeting? Is it a soft and easy? Is it tough? Do I bring the father figure into it? Do I bring a policeman in it, a gangster, a priest, in it, or those kind of variation approach for you, moving from chief of people to head of business, which is it's tough. I mean, I'm talking from experience here. Running a regional business, expectation on numbers, it's not a joke. You connect to those calls overseas. They want you to sell a lot of chicken fast.
Yeah.
And if you start reading them a weather report to say Cape Town is cold, we're selling less chicken, Durban is this, nobody's interested in weather reports.
Yeah.
They want you to sell chicken and make
Yeah.
the numbers. But whereas on the chief of people side, it's all empathy, kind of the mother side of you comes out. How have you kind of traveled through those two roles?
Yeah, so interestingly, each of these two roles have probably allowed me to lean into two really different parts of myself. So the chief people officer role, I could be the empathetic me, I could be the Judge Judy,
King Solomon.
the King Solomon, and just help people find a way to one another, or away from each other. And that was an interesting one for me because I'd never been in an HR role before. So it didn't feel like it came naturally, but at the same time, it's a skill that I discovered I had. I was actually, I'm actually an empathetic person, which was really nice to discover about myself because it's a skill I would then leverage in my role as GM. The role as GM, I see as a facilitator role, which actually helps me because I live here. Like, I live probably less in my heart and more in my head. And as a facilitator, your ability to read the room and read the cues and hear the unsaid and connect the dots is very important.
Yeah.
I've got a team of people that are obviously responsible for leading big teams that need to deliver. But if that team of people is not engaged and they're not understanding what the direction is, then I don't get the business to where the business needs to be. So my facilitative role or style helps me to kind of help them play to their best abilities as well and bring to the table what they bring best. I call it a love language for everybody. Everyone has a love language. And it's not just limited to romantic relationships, even at work. So my CFO's love language is different from my CPO's love language and my CMO's love language. And so how I interact with them is based on what they need and who they need me to be for them, and how best to facilitate a conversation between people that are so different, but helping them to lean into their strengths and into who they are and what they bring. So I feel like that's what the GM role has allowed me to be, almost an observer but a participant at the same time. So I've got the luxury of stepping back and going, okay, what do we need to make this work? We've got a really big target that we need to achieve. Who in this room is best placed to help us achieve that? And sometimes it requires of me to step outside of people's functions and to go, well, you might be the CFO, but I know you've got a skill set that could actually help us to fix a marketing problem. So let me lean into you for this particular one. And I think dealing with the global business and reporting into a global business, for me, is actually less about what the numbers look like. They're always going to look at that, and that's why we exist. It's about understanding the people on the other end and what drives them, and building those relationships, which again speaks to the kind of the empathy that I learned in my role as CPO. Is who are they when they're not working? Who are they? Like, the one is a grandfather, the one is a mom, and the one is, what are their aspirations? What makes them tick? Because if I can relate with them at that level and bring them along on the journey, it makes some difficult conversations not as difficult. If they know I'm grappling with something that could potentially compromise my ability to meet an expectation, and I bring them along on the journey from the get-go, it really helps, especially when you understand character. Some people want to be brought along on the journey, other people don't. But if I get that, then it just makes the engagement a lot easier. And I think the fact that we generally have a team that's built so much credibility as well. Our global business truly believes in our ability to deliver what we have committed to deliver, and that when we're not able to, we will communicate and we will make a plan. We're never the economy is so tough and pity us. Our approach is, yes, Africa will continue to be challenging. It was challenging before we ran the business. It will continue to be challenging when we're gone. But how do we make the most of a challenging situation? And I think people reward you for that. People reward you for openness, for vulnerability, and for being clear about where your capabilities sit and where you are lacking capabilities, but doing something about it. When I know we're sitting around a table and we're trying to solve a problem that none of us can solve, I don't have a problem picking up the phone and calling on somebody who actually has a better solution for us or who's done this before. I don't think any of the people around our table from a leadership team perspective have any sort of pride around, okay, well, we can solve it, so what does that say of us? We are all very happy to bring in people that know a lot more than we know. And then secondary to that, also hiring people that know more than we know as a leadership team. So I honestly believe our teams are a lot smarter than our leadership team, and that's exactly what they need to be. We can't be the smartest people in the room. I certainly refuse to be the smartest person in the room. When I feel like I'm the smartest, I know I don't belong in that room anymore. And that's just my approach. So again, very long way to answer you, and I hope it does touch on what you're looking for.
No, it does. Fortunately, Africans love chicken, so we don't have to worry about selling too much. It's a pure.
But the challenge of being a successful business is you become a victim of your own successes. The more you do, the more you overcome all of your challenges.
The more work you get rewarded with.
Exactly. You get rewarded with more work, higher expectations. You get a call, and Dallas are like, we're revising your target. And
yeah, sure. I love that about empathy in leadership. I think it's such an important point. I was actually reading a book by Brene Brown, and I think it's just something that they always play when you start a new job. One of the videos they always play is around empathy, and it's so great when it translates from a leadership perspective. So I love that. But I want to switch to travel. Favorite place, holiday destination that you've been to, either by yourself or with your family?
So my favorite place to go to, holiday or no holiday, is Ghana.
Oh yes, you did mention this.
There's just something about the contrast between a very well organized South Africa and a very, for lack of a better word, like a disorganized but highly energetic.
You can say it chaotic.
I was trying to move away from that word. But a very vibrant energy that you get in countries where not everything works and people still make it work. There's
But-
something about that.
But it's also the culture, right? It's so rich.
It's yeah, and just the level of pride people have about being Ghanaian, and they don't complain about it. I think here we're so quick to say, oh, South Africa, oh, this and this one, and the government didn't do this and this one didn't do that. In Ghana, people know what they have and they know what they don't have, and they make the most of everything. So I love that. Favorite holiday destination for me, without even sounding cliched, I think Paris has to be the place.
Okay.
It is extremely cliched, but there's something about walking down the streets of whether it's Champs-Élysées, depending on what you're after, but having no one bother you for anything, and people are just busy in their own heads and they're doing what they need to do, and you needing to do what you do, and you walk until you lose count of the many steps you've done or how many hours you've walked, and you just disappear into a city that is not going to bother you.
Yeah.
And yet when you feel tired, there's always a coffee shop to stop and have a little bit of patisserie or something. I just love that. And also because it's everything you think it will be. It is exactly what you see in the pictures is exactly the experience you're going to have. And I love that. I love about places that kind of live up to the expectation. Yeah, and obviously recently Hawaii has also become like a really,
really great
fav-
place.
Yeah, and I think for me, reason being, first, it's so far. Like it really is.
Yeah,
It is
like,
really, it's far. And
Almost, I was checking,
you're literally going like
almost,
through the belly of the earth to go to the other side. Like that's how far it is.
almost like 20,000 miles from here.
Like
Wow.
It's far.
And as much as I would have loved to take my children to Hawaii at some point, I'm like, maybe when they're older. But it's just too long a trip. And I think that's probably where the love comes from, because I'm like, maybe I will not go to Hawaii again. This may have been the first and the last time
Maybe you take
that I did the trip.
you take your family to San Francisco, and then you take a cruise, or Seattle.
But even
or
to get to
Vancouver.
San Francisco is also like, yeah, maybe when they're older.
Yeah, I think it's probably better to wait the right age. Of,
Yeah.
probably the young one being about.
I think
9,
when she's a
10,
teenage, I think when she's
yeah,
9-10, she'll be
yeah, be
too
able
young.
to carry
Yeah.
her bag,
exactly.
and also earphones and all that.
Yeah.
And take that. We tried that when these guys were a little bit take a long trip. It was just interesting because they can look after themselves. Otherwise, it's painful.
Yeah. So I don't want that on a long haul trip. So yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
those are my favorite
grow
places.
them, make them strong, and put it there on the map somewhere for them to look up to when they grow older and go there, the islands.
Yeah.
Over to you, Dad.
Yeah, so you said you love Ghana so much. I mean, I've been lucky to have also traveled a lot in Africa and seen how Ghana culture has been. In fact, one of the CEOs who appeared here was a guy from Ghana, and maybe you know the guy, Marcus. Yeah, the culture, the food, it's just something else. I mean, one thing that just boggled my mind has been when they slaughter, they don't skin the beast. They kind of local meat, not you know, they just eat with the skin. It's like interesting, and the other thing is because when I was with the previous company, I set up the office there. I was going there quite often, and one of the employees, I think, uncle passed, and I attended a funeral, which was something else culturally. I think they waited 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, they do
Before
wait
they-
quite a while.
They do that, and they hire this professional mourners to come and cry as if they're own. So, I mean, sitting in a Santon office or studio telling you the story is different to experiencing this. When you see those professional mourners crying, falling on the ground, like a movie, as something else. It's and I think that's what the travel does. You know, if you travel, you just see life in a kind of a different, lens from people's values and things. Just you know. So with all that in mind, I mean, it looks like you've kind of clocked a lot of Voyager miles. What sort of cultural observations have you made on the way? Apart from pina coladas from
And they're virgin
Hawaii.
pina coladas, by the way. I need to qualify that. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, what's been interesting is as different as we are and as different as our backgrounds are throughout the globe, we all still human. Our dreams, our aspirations, very similar. So I've made it a point because I think it's a privilege to work for a multinational organization. And I've made it a point to befriend people of different nationalities and cultures
Yeah.
beyond just the we work together, but actually, like, who are you beyond work? What's your experience of life? Like, what are your views on life based off your kind of your personal experiences and backgrounds? And what I've found is humans are humans. We're all looking for connection. We're all looking to contribute something meaningful to this world.
Yeah.
We all care about similar issues. And that is what I love about traveling, because it's easy to say, oh, as South Africans, we're disadvantaged, or things don't always work out for us, and to become victims. But when you start to look around the world and see that actually the things you complain about, they're not unique. And yes, they might feel like they are because your perspective is limited to literally a sample of one geography. But when you start to open up your eyes and see, actually, we are more similar globally than we think we are.
I've
That
seen
for me is, it really, I think it just makes you a better person, actually, those experiences. I think also just living life in a different country through the eyes of a tourist, I've learned that you can't say you understand the people in that country, because I appreciate in the same way that when people from different countries come to South Africa, they may claim they have been here and they have an appreciation of Ubuntu and South Africans, but they haven't really, because they've come to the Kruger, they've gone to Cape Town, they've done all the wonderful things, they've gone to the winelands, but a typical South African doesn't do those things. And so it's given me a heightened appreciation when I go to other countries to go, yes, I can relate with people and I appreciate them for their humanness and the similarities that we have. But I can't say I fully resonate with some of their issues. And even when I think their issues are non-issues, I'm like, actually, for their context, their issues are issues. And yes, I've come here, but I've come here as a traveler. I get to stay in a 5-star hotel. I get to do things that many local working class locals don't do.
Yeah.
I get driven around. Many locals use public transport. It's just the system that works. And so I have an appreciation that you can't underrate somebody's challenges or experiences from your lens. And you can't think you've lived a day in somebody's shoes when you haven't. You've traveled maybe and just, kind of visited them, but you haven't lived their life. And so you need to respect their perspective. You need to respect what they think is a challenge, even when you're rolling your eyes. But you need to appreciate that from where they're standing, for them it is an issue, even if it's a non-issue for you. So it's definitely given me an appreciation of people's perspectives, definitely.
Yeah, in many ways than one. Going to the US and even Europe, different countries, sometimes you go and assume that a European will know a lot about countries around, or
Yeah.
US. You're talking about Dallas, Texas, or even California, or New York or Atlanta. Um, you often get shocked that somebody has never left their state,
Yeah.
and you're starting asking them about stuff in New York. It's like, never been there, don't want to go there. But at the same time, you've been to places, especially in New York or US, where you get into the plane, the taxi driver knows or claim to know so much about your country because they saw on TV or they read or somewhere else. Like,
Yeah.
I remember once I was in New York and in the cab, and this guy was saying, "Are you aware that there are 10 million Zimbabweans in Joburg?" I was like, okay.
Are you aware?
Have you been to Joburg? I was like, so it's all that sometimes you kind of take it for granted. I mean, just look at what's happening here. I'm sure you know about the 5-star game lodges that we don't go to, where you pay 30,000
In
a
dollars,
night.
yeah, and you pay in dollars.
Because they basically bespoke and customized for foreign market.
Yeah.
Just recently, I've been to an island for a holiday, and seeing my ex-colleagues and talking to them on the ground and say, look, Mauritius, and the guy will say, boss, we never come near this hotel. This place is like, we don't, it doesn't exist. So there could be a Sabi Sabi for us, or Richard Branson's Game Lodge, which is like, landing strip, helicopter, and all that. And often, I'm sure where you were in Hawaii was kind of, it's a corporate and tourist party place that the locals, they just either work there or see it from far.
Yeah, they mostly work there, and that, yeah, you're spot on. It's most locals don't, unfortunately, experience the beauty that tourists will enjoy.
And I mean, you see this. I mean, I don't know if you go to often just for a sundown drinks at the Westleaf, the Four Seasons, which very quickly you see a lot of foreigners there. It's cut for them. But if you go overseas, you become that foreigner, and you think the country is beautiful with sundown places like that, which is just cut for them. But maybe to try and one or two questions to wind it off, and then allow you time to ask us some questions. Have you always wanted to be who you are today? Is this what you wanted to be when you're growing up, or it just happened?
Such a funny question, because the response to that just feels like, oh, really? Of course you'd say that. But yes. Yeah, so here's the thing. My dad, I mean, bless him, he's such a wonderful, my parents, both of them, they're really wonderful people. I think the potential they could see in all of us as their children was just way beyond what we could imagine at the time. And my dad just instilled like a deep sense of, I can be whoever I want to be. Like, he just did that for me. And so from a very young age, we love our dads.
Yeah.
Especially when they're being humble about it.
Yeah, like super.
But, he just instilled a deep sense of, I can be whoever I want to be, and I should just like dream and pursue my dreams. And I felt, I'm probably not going to run my own business. I'm probably not. I think I'm going to work somewhere. But wherever I work, like I want the top job. And if not me, then who? And then and I never even vocalized it to him, but I think all of the things he did were to affirm that yeah, if not you, then who? And so it's been a running, deep-seated belief for me. It's almost like a knowing, when you know that, yes, I don't need to chase it. So I've always had a sense of peace around where my career would go. I didn't quite know the exact direction, but I always knew that this would probably be the seat that I would occupy one day. I didn't have a doubt in my mind. I didn't know when, I didn't know how, I didn't know where. But I just, and it actually helped me in a lot of ways, because I never put myself under pressure to try and prove that, yes, I deserve it. I actually remember about 4 years ago, our then, leader said to me, it was about a job that I was about to take on. And he said, do you really want this? Like, you need to show me that you want it. I was like, no, I want it, but I'm not going to. What do you need me to do? Like, must I be somebody else to try and show you that I really want it? Or must I do things that are out of character to try and show you that I really want it? And I said, my things find me in life. If it's for me, it will find me. Like, I don't feel like I need to chase it. Because how far will you run to chase things, honestly? The things that are meant for you, they will make their way to you. They will find you. And I knew somewhere, somehow in my life, this type of role would find me. And I believe, other roles will also find me in my life. When the time is right, when the stars align, the right things will come my way. So I don't chase. I live today for today, and I do the best that I can today. And I take being in this type of role as a massive privilege to drive impact beyond just the bottom line. But how am I changing other people's experiences of corporate? How am I changing women's lives in corporate and helping them to get to their thing that they want to get to? Everything else will work. It will happen for me. I don't need to worry about that.
Okay, you don't have to go after that dream to come to you.
It will
living the
find
dream.
me. It will find me.
So maybe just last question, and then I give it to you, Tebi. You and I kind of met when we were kind of driving this women empowerment drive, a topic that I'm dedicated my life to drive, women empowerment, diversity and inclusion. And I mean, do you see corporates doing enough to make that happen in this country, or even globally? Because I have my own experience where, in some cases, I think it's the flavor of the month of the year, but the actions, the investments don't support that. But I mean, I just want your perspective, because you lived your corporate life with your own eyes, and I've gone my own journey as well. I've seen things.
Yeah, and I do feel like people say, the organizations say the right things because that's what people want to hear. So we're all about women empowerment and gender inclusivity and all of those nice things. But I think very few companies actually put their money where their mouths are. And for me, it's not an overnight change that we're going to see. It's a lifetime. And if we're not committed to it now, then that lifetime will not materialize. So we need to start somewhere. And my view is I can't control what other organizations do. I can't control what the world does. I can control what happens in my world. In my world, women will be included. In my world, there will be gender inclusivity. In my world, there will be a seat at the table for everyone, especially women. That's what I can control. My hope is in this world where I drive these things, the people that participate and benefit will also pay it forward, such that by the time we get to the fullness of time, everyone would have played their role to make this world a more inclusive world. And that's my view. So I choose to control what I can. I agree companies could do a whole lot more. They could invest a lot more time, a lot more effort. It's just that for them, it's easier sometimes to just appoint the next guy who's ready now than to develop somebody who's not that person. It's unfortunate, but where I am, I will make sure that women have a place and that we are deliberate around driving the inclusivity of women.
Power. Tebi.
Cool. So my final question is, what has been the biggest failure or biggest lesson that you've learned that has led you to today?
Yeah, I think my biggest lesson has been that potential is not enough. You have to actually produce something from your potential. When I started working, I joined as a graduate, and obviously everyone's like, oh, they graduates, they made it through the whole process.
Yeah.
And these are the smart ones, and they've got so much potential. And it's easy to get stuck in that place of, yeah, of course I got potential, like I could do anything, but okay, well, start doing it. And somebody actually told me, and he said, yes, you have tons of potential, but if you don't put any runs on the scoreboard, that potential will quickly dissipate. And it was a tough conversation, but it's a conversation somebody needed to have with me. And I'm forever grateful for that. And I hope I can be that person to somebody else and be a truth teller, because in that moment, he was my truth teller. And he changed how I perceived myself and my capabilities, but also the skills that I would have to learn. Because yes, whilst a lot of things come naturally to you, you have to learn a lot of stuff. I joke with a lot of people and I say, you could wake me up at 1 a.m. and you could be like, listen, I've got a group of engineers from Japan and they want to understand the engineering sector in South Africa and how specifically within construction, and ask me like a thing I know nothing about, and I will probably have a whole lot of things to say about it because I just have like a way with words. But that's not enough. You have to prepare in life. You have to show up and you have to do the work. It doesn't matter how much potential you have. Preparation, preparation, preparation. So I learned that, and again, thankfully I learned it at a young age because it's helped me navigate my career now because I never take anything for granted.
Oh, I love that. I actually heard someone say, if you don't spend enough time preparing, you will spend a lot of time repairing.
Yeah.
So I love that. But we can move on to any questions that you have for us. The interesting part.
Feels like a chief for people type of style. End of the interview. Revenge.
Yeah, I mean, I not a lot of questions, but I actually am interested to know in your interviews with different leaders, and you don't have to mention names or organizations, but what's been the most surprising thing that you found out about somebody that you've gone home and you've just continued to dissect it, like, oh my gosh, can you believe this is what they said or this was the experience? Like, have you ever had any of those moments?
Yeah, many. Even today, you had one.
So when my ears are itching today, I'll be like, okay.
I think one thing, and I'll give you a chance. One thing is every leader is different. I mean, for instance, we had this leader who was so much describing their wedding, traditional wedding, how it was. It took 3 days, drama, they spent a lot of money, everything else, but was like regretting it and saying, I'm writing journals and stuff for my kids, 6 and 7 or something, not to do this. And then I remember that night, I was sitting downstairs and Matlata came and said, look, we need to talk about this. I think that guy was right. This traditional wedding thing, I don't think it's a good thing. And I said, look, I think it's a good thing. Remember, when you get married, you like the only one who are getting married. It's the family wedding. They want to see you dress up. They want to see those things happening. So if you want out, you have to negotiate with the whole extended family because it's not so straightforward. So that's the one, and there are many. I mean, one has been how this guy only drink one drink because of his job that impaired his drinking ability. I mean, I think it's a good thing that one glass and he stops because of his life experiences and all that. Like he can't take one more than one. Yeah, and the other has been around. Your story today has been your guy, how you met him. Some marriages are, arranged, and you'll be shocked that this is a together guy or lady, and the family came together and said, "Look, you guys look okay together."
Not a bad strategy, actually.
Yeah, but I mean, in 2024, you don't think it's happening. I mean, it's happening, but it hits you like bang on your face. They many. I mean, that's why when I'm here, I'm in a better place because the personal stories are, you don't think you know until you really know.
Yeah.
It's like traveling the world in terms of people's stories and knowing more. So it's been unbelievable, more than I thought we'll get with this. I don't know.
Yeah, no, just to let you know, I won't talk about specific experiences, but I think the nice thing about it is realizing that the person is human and also coming into the conversation with your own context and hearing how those things or how that person navigated those particular challenges, So I think every interview has its own thing that you take away and you're like, oh my goodness, this was, something that's going to sit with me forever. The one though was, we're interviewing this one leader and he literally is like my husband, but a different person. So like he studied the same thing, they had the same interests, they like the same person. And so when I went home, I was like, I met you. I was interviewing this guy, and this is what he does, and this is where he worked, and this is what he did. And so yeah, I would say that
Yeah.
that's been my journey with Off the
Ghost
Clock.
husband.
Yeah, your dad will now want to know, like, who's that guy?
Actually, no.
Yeah, he did.
I like him.
Good.
Because you like a husband more.
Yeah.
And what's your vision for this? Like, where are you wanting to take it?
So, I mean, the vision is not to give away our family secrets. The vision is obviously demystifying people like you, and we see it coming through because we post this on TikTok, the shorts only, and the video sits on YouTube page, where people's like, wow, she's that real. She doesn't eat Norwegian salmon and caviar. She's like a streetwise too lady. It's like your sales are gonna go up on streetwise because the MD is eating. So demystify the leaders, but also uh, because what you also see off record is because leaders are real. They don't sleep well sometimes. They don't. They stress. They depressed, and that's why they need to kind of work-life balance. And the next thing we started doing this in-person um, events where we bring different themes on. We got a relationship with Gibbs to bring that content there. So that's where we're gonna take you next. You can come with your company or alone. Um, and but the biggest theme I think that we see work is longevity and wellness. People focusing more on that because we've seen that most leaders will work so hard and literally finish it. Like running a car, not servicing
Yeah.
it, 5 years is done. When you retire, you done. We want you to be able to live um, 80, 90 years with education and longevity that we bring in, that you can do beyond that. Because sometimes companies are, me and you, they're revving us hard, they're finishing us. When you do your 65 or 60 and retire, there's very little left in the tank. But if you can do it in a way that gives you longevity and you last until after retirement, you're still fit, you're still healthy, you can go on and on. That's what we're driving. Hopefully, we've been discussing as well with Gibbs on doing a 5-day course on wellness for executives to be able to even bringing in partners because you can't do it alone.
Yeah.
If you're married, your lifestyle is with your partner. What you eat at home, when you relax, you need to kind of share the same thing. Spending a day or half a day at a medical, executive medical wellness place where they run a battery of tests to see how you respond to streetwise to or food and see if you can have a maybe veggie streetwise to or something like that. That's where we're taking it, and of course we're gonna do a book.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're probably gonna come into a book.
Be happy to.
Yeah. Hope I answered you.
You did actually. But well done on the work you've done so far, and I wish you all of the best.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for joining Off the Clock today.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I just want to thank you as well for being yourself and sharing your personal story and just being true to yourself and that energy. It's like I feel like I know you better. When you came here, I thought I knew you, but I think I know you better because you shared so much about your off the clock, off KFC, your family, your son's story. How you met the guy, your guy. It's just so intimate, you know. And thank you for that.
You're
Appreciate
most
it.
welcome. Thank you.